Hi everyone, I'm excited to bring you this week's math lesson. This week we're actually looking at something brand new, something that we haven't talked about yet in our classroom. So what I need you to do is pay super close attention so that you will be prepared to do our activities for this week that are on Google Classroom. So this week we're going to be talking about graphing. And graphs are a way to show data in a pictorial model. So using an image or a visual representation of the data. And so data is information that is collected from either like a survey or something like that, where we have a bunch of information or a bunch of data, and then the person that's collected that data, instead of just writing it all in one big long sentence, will put it in a graph. And so this week, we're going to talk about different graphs, and we're really just going to focus on reading graphs and being able to interpret the data of graphs. And so the one thing that you are going to have to do, though, is you are going to make a pictograph, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, in your Google Classroom assignment this week. And so just know that the only graph you're going to make this week is a pictograph. The rest of your activities will be about reading and interpreting the data that's in the graph. Okay, so on my board here I have 4 different graphs that we're going to talk about through this unit. And we're going to spend 2 weeks on graphing. So week 1 is going to be interpreting data, looking at data, interpreting it, and then week 2 will be making graphs and collecting data. So before you can make a graph, you have to collect data. And one way you can collect data is by having a survey. So if we would have been together in our classroom when I do this unit on graphing, I would have you go around to each other and ask each other questions like, how many pets do you have at home? Or what's your favorite food? Pizza, cheeseburgers, or spaghetti? And I would have you go around and ask each other all the questions. And that's data collection, when you're collecting the information from other people. So just this week, I was actually invited to be a part of a survey through East Carolina University of all different teachers that are teaching from home. And so I went online and I filled out the survey. And what's going to happen is the person that sent out the survey is going to get all the data back, and they might make graphs. And some of the questions were like, what kind of devices are you using? Are you using a phone, a laptop, or an iPad? And they might make a graph like a bar graph and have 1 bar be iPad, 1 bar be computer, and 1 bar be iPhone or phone, smartphone. And then all the people that put computer, that bar would go up, and all the people that put iPad, that would go up, and all the people that put smartphone would make that bar higher. And that's an easier way to look at the data. So like let's take this for example. If this was that data, we would know that more people used a computer because the bar is higher. So graphs are a great way to display data in a pictorial model where you don't have to really read much. You can just look at it and interpret and see who had the most. So data collection is super important when making graphs, and that's step 1. So next week, I'm going to do another lesson with you on making graphs, and we're going to work on data collection. Is going to be part of one of your assignments next week. But let's focus on this week. This week is just learning graphs, learning what graphs look like, the type of graphs we're going to learn, and then interpreting data within graphs. So the first graph that I want to talk about is a pictograph, and that's up here. And so a pictograph is a graph that has pictures instead of bars or X's or tallies. So in this pictograph, the title is Favorite Subjects. So someone did collected data on the favorite subjects of people in school. And so the red is math, the yellow is reading, the green is science, and the blue is social studies. And so, let me bring you in a little bit closer. There we go. And so, the thing we have to remember though with pictographs is these pencils do not represent one student. We look down here at the bottom at the key and it says 1 pencil equals 2 students. And so when I look at math, 1, 2, 3 pencils is not the answer. It's not 3 students. How many students liked math, thinking that each pencil is worth 2? Okay, good. If you said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 students liked math, then you're right. Now let's look at the next one. The next row is actually reading, and this one gets tricky because at the end there's only half of a pencil. So we can think, what plus what equals 2? If you said 1 plus 1 equals 2, then you're exactly right. So a half of a pencil actually equals 1. So when I'm counting these pencils, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a half a pencil would be 7. So 7 students liked reading. Same thing with the science. We have another half of a pencil that represents 1 because 1 plus 1 equals 2. And if you have 2 halves of a pencil, you have 2, and 1 plus 1 equals 2. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students that like science, and 2, 3 students that like social studies. So what subject did students like the most, according to this pictograph? Good, you're right. If you said that students liked reading the most, then you're absolutely correct. Another way we can know without even having to count is that the reading pencils are longer. There's more reading pencils than any other pencil on our pictograph. So pictograph displays data using pictures to display that data. And normally in a pictograph, there's a key at the bottom where it says how much each picture is worth. Now, for your assignment this week on a pictograph, you're going to make a pictograph. It gives you a little scenario with some data, and then it has a pictograph, and you're going to move the pictures to the graph. For your assignment, each peep, because it's peep candies, each peep is going to represent 1. So you're going to make each bunny be 1. So your key is bunny equals 1, just to make it a little simpler since we're just starting graphing this week. Okay, the next graph I want to look at is a tally mark chart. And this is a great way for collecting data. So this was, what did you eat for lunch? And sandwich, hot dog, chicken, or pizza is the options. And so same thing, kind of with the pictograph, they use tallies to collect the data or to display the data. So 4 students had a sandwich, 2 students liked the hot dog. Remember, when there's a cross, that's a group of 5. So 5, 6, 7, 8 students liked chicken, and 5 students liked pizza. So with the same thing with the pictograph, we can kind of just look at the graph to see and interpret the data, and we can see that the majority of the students had chicken for lunch. This is a great tool for when you're collecting data. It's also a great tool to display data, but I really like using this when I'm going around and asking questions. So easy just to put a tally next to what the person voted for. Okay, 2 more charts and then we're done, and I'm going to let you work on your assignments. This is called a line plot, and it is a straight line across the bottom, and then there are X's that go up to display the number of people that were in each group. So this is spelling test scores, and at the bottom it says 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. And so what this tells us is these are all the scores for the spelling test, and that one person got 60 because there's only one X. How many people got 70? Good. If you said that 2 people got 70, 1, 2, then you're exactly right. 2 people got a 70%. 3 people got an 80%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people got a 90%. And 1, 2, 3, 4 people got 100%. So when I'm looking at this graph, I can clearly see that the percentage with the most X's is 90%, because that's where the majority of the X's are. And in this scenario, each x equals 1. Remember, on a line plot, there's not going to be a key like on a pictograph. All the x's equal 1. So another question that you might see when you're looking at like a line plot is how many students took the test. And can you tell me how you can figure that out? So if you said that you can count up all the x's on the graph, you're exactly right. So let's count together to see how many students actually took the test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 students took the test, and 15 students are represented on this line plot. Last one that we're going to talk about, and this is a bar graph. And so bar graphs can look two ways. So I have two examples for you. Bar graphs can look like this, where the bars go up and down. Or bar graphs can also look like this, where the bars go from side to side. So for this lesson, I wanted to focus on a bar graph that looks like this. So a bar graph is not like a line plot because it also has a line that goes up the side. So for this scenario, it's favorite colors. And along the bottom, we have the colors: green, yellow, red, orange, blue, and purple. And then up the side, because there's no numbers on these bars. So like here we can count on a line plot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I know that there are 5 students. These are just bars. So without any numbers on the side, I would have no idea what these bars represent. So the numbers are going to go up this side. So this is the number of students. These are the colors at the bottom, and up the side is the number of students. And this whole graph is called the title, and it's favorite colors. So if I'm looking at this, I have to go all the way up for green, and I have to look at what number the bar touches for green, and that's 4. So 4 students liked green. Same thing with yellow. I go up. Oh, it's touching the number 2. So there's 2 students that like yellow. For red, I go up. 3 students like red because it's right on the number 3. Orange, I look at the top of the bar and I go over and it's on 1. So only one student likes orange. On the blue, 5 students like blue. And on the purple, 3 students like purple. So for this week, thinking about graphs and learning more about displaying data using graphs. This week, we're really only focusing on reading graphs and understanding graphs and reading the data on them. Next week, like I said, we're going to get into making our own graphs, collecting data, and things like that. Friends, I'm very proud of you. You're doing a fantastic job online. Keep up the great work, and I'm looking forward to seeing how successful you will be with this. Since this is new content and a new lesson that we haven't covered, I'm going to have an open office hour this week on Wednesday from 1 until 2 o'clock for you to jump on Zoom, and you can ask me any questions that you may have about graphing. So that'll be Wednesday from 1 until 2, and I'll be sure to send out that link to your parents Wednesday morning. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Keep up the great work. I look forward to hearing from you soon.